So I have a project which has involved thus far four fabrics, but I have three more that are going to require changing of the hem stitching thread colors. So this particular machine, with the Singer hem stitcher attachment, you have one top thread and one bottom thread. On this machine you have two top threads and two bobbin threads. So it's quite an adventure. So if you look here, these are the threads that I'm going to be changing. But this machine is quite a beast to thread. It's not that simple, really. You know, you can, once you know it, sure enough, but it's complicated. So I've realized in the process that it makes sense to follow the approach I use for my overlocker, which is to tie the thread ends and then pull it through up to the needle and then thread the needle. So that makes it a lot easier. So you do need to lift the foot, but I don't need a lot of thread for this project and only have one spool. So what I've done is I've wound the bobbins, so put class 15 on top. It could be any class, it doesn't really matter for the top, but the bottom is class 66. So you can see on this side I've got all my 66 class bobbins, and I've just used these Husqvarna Viking bobbins to separate the two so they don't mix up. And then what I can do is thread the top. The bottom, there's no getting around it. You've got to pull the bobbin out and do it. However, for this, it's relatively easy. So all I need to do, I found this kind of works well here on this machine, is to just put the bobbins here and make sure they spin inwards towards the thread guide there, and then take an end. So I'm just going to snip the threads and snip this other thread. So now they're separated. I will tie them together like this. Fairly straightforward. Make sure the knot is small, good and tight. There's no need to make, you don't want a big knot, and then just snip close, not too close because you don't want them pulling apart. So I always leave a tiny little thread there if you can see it, and then do the same with the other side. So just tie these together. Oops, got a little confused there. Try again. Tie it together, pull the thread through, firm up the knot, little snip, perfect. And you can see again, I've left a little tail about, not, 6 millimeters long, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. So the next step is very important. Lift the presser foot up. That releases the thread tension, and then what you do is grab the top threads from the needle and you pull the threads through just to the needle eye. You do not want to pull that knot through because you could break your needle. Sometimes it'll go through if you've got a very large needle and very fine thread, but generally it's going to cause you problems. So this machine is, I'll do it this way. I'll pull it that way, and then I can pull it down here from the needle area. So you may find it's a little stiff sometimes. Okay. Pull it through, so it's, you want to get it through the thread guides and the tension discs, and then through all the other feeding, because it's a long thread path. And then here we go, we should be able to start pulling. Yeah, getting some success. And you want to help it along because it can get stuck en route. There's a bit of grumble going on here under this bit, so you might find sometimes, there we go, it's pulled through that time, and that one's pulled through. So we've got the thread through everything through the uptake lever, and now I'm just going to do the final bit to bring it towards the needle. Okay, it's arrived at the needle. So that's the one needle, and now let's do the other one. Okay, so you could say, oh, it might be quicker to thread, but that's entirely your decision how you want to do that. In my case, this is quite complicated, and to keep it in the thread guides and do all of those magic things is complicated. So I now have the thread where I want. Now I want to pull it back. I know sometimes you don't want to, but I've pulled too much here. So I want to just, you know, tidy it up, but it doesn't really matter from that point of view. But I'm good now with just being able to thread the needle. I've, you know, got the threads where I want them. All I need to do now is thread the needle, so I'll just do a little snip. It always takes longer to do this on the camera, but that's part of the art and the fun of videos. I should have snipped this before just to free it up, because it's still attached to the bobbins, but ultimately what I have now is two threads. You're probably going to struggle to see them because they're a very light tan color. And then I just have to thread the needles. So that's just involved. That's all I need to do now is thread the needles. Just cut these threads so I can get this out of here. Perfect. And that's it. So this is the only other machine where it really, well, that and, sorry, there are three now. The cover stitch machine, the overlocker, and this Hemstitcher. It's much easier to pull the threads through than to thread it manually every time. It's not impossible, it's just not a lot of fun. So there's the one needle, and that's feeding fine. So what I always find is you need to check when you do this that it's still in the tension discs up top, and that there's no surprises like in here where it's got tangled or anything. But thus far it seems good, so we'll just thread this other needle. There we go, that's in. And so that's done. So the next part is, of course, changing the bobbins, which I have to read my instruction manual again because I always get confused about if it's, with a class 15, you know, it's always the way it spins the correct direction. But I can't remember with these off the top of my head. It's still too new to me to know if it spins clockwise or counterclockwise when you pull out the bobbins, because it's upside down and it's a bit different than you expect. So I have to still learn that, but I have the instruction manual, so it tells me which way to thread the bobbins. So anyway, I hope you found that a little bit interesting. The next video will be actually working on the project. So this spins clockwise. So I know that's threaded correctly. So the left bobbin spins clockwise. Let me just check if the right bobbin also spins clockwise. I'm pretty sure it will. Yes, that also spins clockwise. So that's the answer. These also spin clockwise when you hold them upside down like that. So the same as the class 15. So I can probably remember that. So that's quite a good thing to remember. So I just need to thread these with the new colors and then test the machine. So anyway, bye for now.